What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker.
Amir, Rahimi.
And today on The Great Debaters, man, we're taking it to the south, H-Town and down. Get ready, y'all, The Great Debaters. Alright, Amir, so obviously we love rap, and one of the groups that we both share immense affinity for is the Geto Boys. So today, on The Great Debaters, Amir and I are going to look at two of the Geto Boys albums and pick out which one we think is best. We got the self-titled eponymous album, The Geto Boys, which dropped in 1990, and then we got their best-selling album, Cant Be Stopped, which dropped in 1991. So, Amir, the Geto Boys album is really it's the third album, but it's largely Grip It on that other level with some serious reworkings, but a lot of the same songs. So for you coming in as a fan, knowing their earlier work and then getting to the Geto Boys album, kind of what were your thoughts of the Geto Boys prior to the self-titled album?
I hadn't really listened to the first album with the other members. I hadn't really listened to that, so this was actually my first introduction to it.
Oh, before Grip It on that other level?
I actually even heard this before Grip It on that other level, which is funny because this was the quote-unquote remix album of Grip It on that other level.
It's not a remix. It's a different album.
It's a different album, exactly. But it was just so crazy for me to actually hear the different album from Grip It on that other level and just see how even different they sounded. And I know you and I have talked about this off camera before, but just even they were rapping each other's verses.
Right.
And I actually didn't even catch that. I mean, I caught it, but it took a few listens to kind of catch that, because I was rapping people's verses in different voices, and I was like, wait a second, this person said this. So that definitely caught me off guard.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, for me, I knew the Geto Boys and I liked the Geto Boys, and I thought that with Grip It on another level, they sounded like a different group, because they were. They had the same name, but the group members had changed, and then the content was dramatically different. And I was excited because I knew Rick Rubin, obviously, through his work with Run DMC and LL Cool J and others, Beastie Boys, so I was super excited that he was going to be working with the Geto Boys, because I knew as they were evolving that they were getting better. So I figured that getting with Rick Rubin would make them even better, and boy was I right.
Yeah,
So
right.
Obviously this album has a lot of the same songs, but they're reworked with different verses, they're reworked with different beats. The production, in my opinion, is very good, if not astounding at times. But the big song, or the big single that was released, was the Do It Like a Geo. And rest in peace to Ready Red, who I had the pleasure of talking to a few times over the years. And I really liked his performance on there, and I think that Ready Red doesn't get a lot of shine for the Geto Boys, but he obviously was an integral part to their early success and setting them up to be the group that they eventually became, the Legends. But with you, what do you think about Do It Like a Geo?
Oh, it was a good one. I like how Jade Prince is on the song.
Right.
I always love when Jade Prince has little cameos here and there, especially at the start of albums, but Do It Like a Geo, I believe, was somewhere in the middle. I really love the lines, I believe, where Willie D is talking about, like, we know New York started, but let's have the South, let the South have a voice. And they're talking about kind of even being blackballed, and even with this album, how it was kind of blackballed by who put it out. Was it Deaf American Recordings?
Well, originally it was supposed to be on Geffen, and then Geffen declined the pleasure of releasing the album, and then they went Deaf American, ended up going with a subsidiary which was under the same Time Warner umbrella, so it was just ridiculousness on every level. But Willie D, that was one of the great things about this album and Grip It on that other level, is that they, even before the West Coast, Willie D was putting New York on blast for being xenophobic and for not supporting people that were non-New Yorkers. Because I remember that was one of the things I always wondered about some of the early rappers that I liked before the Geto Boys, like Schoolie D, of course, but then Steady B and MC Shy D and Two Live Crew. All these guys, I was like, man, why aren't they more popular? Why don't they get more shine? Because they're making some good music. But Willie D summed it up nicely on the album.
He does.
And didn't pull no punches, as he definitely doesn't, as an accomplished boxer, by the way.
But he is.
So, that being said, the thing that struck me about the self-titled album was that Rip It on that other level, the intensity had been ratcheted up, but I thought the Geto Boys album ratcheted up the intensity with Mind of a Lunatic being, and I said this on the Geto Boys Unsung, if you guys have seen that, you should, you might remember this. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it, because I'm in there quite a bit. But that song was the first song I remember hearing as a kid where I was like afraid. Like, I was like, wow, what is going on in this song? And I was just like, these dudes are utter maniacs. And are they really, like, just to even think of this stuff that they rapped about in Mind of a Lunatic with the, you know, the corpse and writing their name on the wall like Helter Skelter with the blood and all this other stuff they were talking about, I was like shocked. But then after the initial shock wore off, and then I appreciated what was going on in the song, I was like, this song's phenomenal.
That's a great one. And other great storytelling tracks would be like the Scarface song, where, you know, he's just talking about the day-to-day of being Scarface, and he's kind of introducing himself, talking about him and his name, and then he's with the woman, and then her head gets blown off, and then, you know, they'll remember the name, they don't see the face, or whatever he says there. That song was like incredible storytelling, and that was just Scarface going in, and that one was just huge for me. And the intro track, Fuck 'Em, which I'm so happy they put that, because on Grip It on the Other Level, they took a lot of songs from there and redid them and whatnot, but this song was brand new. And to start off the album with a song called Fuck 'Em, and just the whole message of that song is incredible.
Well, that's something I talk about in my book, The History of Gangsta Rap. Make sure you buy it. If you haven't already, it's available worldwide on Abrams Books, and Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and IndieBound are some of the main retailers you can get it through. But I talk about that in the book, that they were so brazen, and it was basically, you're either with us or against us.
Yeah.
And I think I had gotten a sense with other rappers or rap groups or artists that had been angry or upset, it was more of, we want to be part of it too. We want to be down with what's going on in society, whereas the Geto Boys were like, forget y'all, man, we don't even want to be with you. And that, to me, I thought was a distinction that was clear on that song, but that's also evident through a lot of the Geto Boys material. Like, they were like standalone in a very defiant way that I thought was different from what other people that were considered gangster rappers were doing, which I thought was very intriguing. And they also had like City Under Siege, which was great. Size Ain't Shit. Life in the Fast Lane. It's just so much on this album, and the beats were so phenomenal. And then Gangster of Love was one of the early songs I remember thinking, like, this is reprehensible but strangely alluring at the same time.
Dude, okay, so we have to say one thing, because there's actually 3 versions of Gangster Love. The first obviously being on the Grip It on that other level, which has a Steve Miller sample. This one that I have in this, Soren can raise it real quick. This one also has, the first pressing has the Steve Miller sample, and then they did the Lynyrd Skynyrd sample later, which I think the Steve Miller sample, you need to hear that one. That one's the best one. The lines they have in the song are just phenomenal. Bushwick talking about Kathleen Johnson. Oh my god, this song, this might be my guilty pleasure favorite Geto Boys song. It's like, it's so great.
It's so not their at the same time.
Yeah, it's not their best song, quote unquote, but it's probably my favorite, if not 100% top 3 favorite Geto Boys
The
song.
misogyny on that song is on another level.
It is.
It's astonishing what those guys say on the record, which, I don't know, man. It's astonishing, but it's also very vivid, which makes it more powerful.
It's funny stuff.
So, I thought the Geto Boys album was, you had Schoolie D and NWA and Ice-T and all these other guys that I thought brought a level of forcefulness and definitely don't mess with us, whereas I think the Geto Boys, I think more so were overtly trying to instill fear.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the other stuff was more a reaction to what was going on in anger. Whereas I think the Geto Boys were much more aggressive. So now let's move on to the best-selling Geto Boys album, the We Cant Be Stopped. And obviously, this album is the best-selling album because it had their biggest single of all time, Mind Playing Tricks on Me, which uses Mind of a Lunatic lyrics from Scarface to get going. And that was one time where that writing tool was used where I thought it was great, because now we see so many rappers using other people's lines to start their verse, or they'll do that at the start of each verse, or on a remix or something they'll use a famous line or famous people's lines. So I enjoyed the fact that Scarface, because the Geto Boys had never gone gold even to this point, it was cool for me to be like, oh, that's Mind of a Lunatic that he's starting his verse of Mind Playing Tricks on Me. And that, to me, as a fan, was exciting. And then to hear them all telling these different stories and doing stuff that later became the hallmark of Scarface's career, kind of the paranoia, the doubt, the kind of confusion as to what was going on and the disappointment, I thought was made for a phenomenal song.
Agreed, and I'm so happy. I'm not sure exactly who's the one who said this shouldn't be a Scarface solo record, it should be a Geto Boys song, because originally it was a Scarface solo song. I don't know if it was Jade Prince, it may have been him or someone else, but I'm so happy they made this a Geto Boys song. Because Bushwick Bill's performance on there is just like amazing. I was punching the concrete, and it wasn't even close to Halloween, and Willie D had an exceptional verse as well, but this is one of the few songs on the album that they were on there together as a group.
Right.
As Scarface mentions in his book, Diary of a Madman, which is a great read if you haven't read that one yet. He talks about during this album, they weren't all completely together recording songs, which is why a lot of the songs here are solo tracks.
Right.
So it's not as, cohesive as the Geto Boys album. But there were some amazing tracks on this. But Mind Playing Tricks on Me, if it wasn't for that being like a group song, who knows if this would have even went gold, this album.
Right.
Who knows?
Who knows? But as I've discussed with many artists, you're always just one hit away. And that song really did it. And the other song that I think for me is very memorable was the Chuckie song. Because that kind of, Mind Playing Tricks on Me kind of, to me, built on what Scarface had done on the previous two Geto Boys album, and I think Chuckie, came to define kind of a lot of Bushwick's career for the next couple albums. And I know Gangster Nip wrote that song, and I remember thinking just like, well, I don't know, am I supposed to like this song? Like, is it like, what he's rapping about is so gruesome and violent and depraved. I didn't know what to think, and I still don't know what to think. Like, Bushwick's material at times and Gangster Nip is both, like, for me at least, they've always been very strange listens because they're so, like, I can understand most things most rappers rap about all the time. That stuff is a little beyond, like, I don't know.
I'll say one thing. Talking about like such ignorant, crazy, you don't know what to think about demented lyrics. I've said this before, but Rap A Lot Records is one of those record companies that I give the pass on. Like, I let them say whatever the hell they want to say, as opposed to other people. I kind of am a little more. I critique a little bit more. This label, I just let anything go. And just like Bushwick, Gangsta Nip, just all these acts that they have on this label just have some outlandish lyrics, and Chuckie being a great example of it. And Bushwick has just such great content on this album, man. Like, where he's talking about taking bitches to the other level on that classic 6-minute track where he's basically saying he's bored of having, you know, just regular old sex. He wants to now have sex with 2 females instead of 1. You know, 2 is better than 1. His storytelling is great on that, as well as Fuck a War.
Right.
Well, that one hit a little closer to home because he had some family members enlisted in the war, and he let his 2 cents fly on that one. And Bushwick on this album, I think, just although he didn't write all of his lyrics, you know, Scarface, Willie D, Gangsta Nip wrote a lot of his lyrics and most of them. I think his delivery on them and just his personality, and even seeing him on the cover as this small dwarf with his eye shot off, it just puts some image in your head. This guy does not give a fuck. He's a crazy guy.
And neither does Willie D.
Oh,
I'm Not a Gentleman.
Oh my
for instance, Willie D, I think, is a phenomenal artist.
Yes.
And he's I've had the fortune of talking to him a couple of times and hanging out with him, and he's definitely the man on many levels. But I'm Not a Gentleman. I always thought Willie D, how he just really don't care. Like, that's Willie D, like the stamp of this is a dude that doesn't care. That's WillieD.com.
.com. It's a fact.
So, all that to be said, man, I thought that We Can't Be Stopped had a lot of great songs on it, but here's where we're going to get down to the nitty gritty of evaluating it. So for Amir, for you, which of these 2 albums, the Geto Boys or We Can't Be Stopped, and why?
Okay, so the Geto Boys album, their self-titled album, that is more of a, let's say, a Geto Boys album. Mm-hmm. With that being said, I still prefer the album We Can't Be Stopped, even though it's not as, you can tell they weren't together as much on recording it. The songs, I just prefer more over their self-titled album. I'm Not a Gentleman, I'm happy you brought that one up. Willie D does exceptional on it. Just so many songs on this album. They're just so great. We Can't Be Stopped, Ready, even raps on that, rest in peace. This album, as far as individual songs go, I'm going this one. And Willie D's also Trophy, where they talk about, well, fuck Emmy, Tony, and Oscar. Like, I need a trophy, and he hands out the Bitch Kill Award to Ice Cube, and he hands out, you know, the Lip Syncing Award to Milli Vanilli, all these things. I have to go with this one. With phenomenal cover art as well.
Yes, but I'm going with the self-titled album for many reasons. Mm-hmm. First of all, I think I enjoy the interplay of the artists when they work together, and they've shown that they can excel at that. And we saw that on Grip It on Another Level, and now we saw it, I thought, heightened thanks to the sprinkles and the extras that Rubin brought to the project. I also thought that the production consistently is better on the Geto Boys album as opposed to We Can't Be Stopped, which I liked it and I thought it was good, but I also thought it was much more skeletal in a way that, yes, was funky, yes, was good, but I thought that the searing sonics of the Geto Boys album are just, it's just amazing to me. The layers of it and the emotion that it pulls out of it, as opposed to being the stripped down emotion that you get on We Can't Be Stopped. So for those reasons, I'm going with the Geto Boys album. But that's Amir, and that's me. What do you guys think? Make sure to like, subscribe, share, comment, hit us up in the comment section and let us know what you think on this episode of The Great Debaters. Which Geto Boys album is better? Be sure to hit us up, y'all.
In the beginning, hip-hop was ruled by the East Coast. Then the West Coast rose to prominence thanks to Gangsta Rap.
Straight out of Compton, crazy motherfucker named Ice Cube.
Hip-hop changed the world. Gangsta Rap changed the narrative.
I'm representing for the gangsters all across the world.
And then changed the world again.
Cause I'll come and take your life away.
The History of Gangsta Rap features unheard stories, unseen photos and documents, all with exclusive interviews from the founders and players who shaped Gangsta Rap.
I think a real gangster rapper has to scare you a little bit.
The History of Gangsta Rap, written by veteran rap journalist Soren Baker. In stores October 2nd, 2018.
Yo, what up? This is DJ Quick. Be sure to pick up my homeboy Soren Baker's book, The History of Gangsta Rap, if you really want to know what we do.